Greetings and salutations everyone. Midnight is soon upon us, and what better way to start this expansion off than with a fiery video like this one. Especially with my brand spanking new PC. So, with every expansion, for the most part, it's pretty fun and enticing just to figure out who exactly will be our final fight by the expansion's end. While it's very early to make guesses, I'll admit, it's not gonna stop me or the community from speculating who we're up against at the very end of the expansion. And sure, we were pretty spot on with guessing who the final boss of War Within. Kind of. I was wrong about Locust Walker 100%, and I'll take that loss with pride, honestly. But I was spot on with the big cosmic blueberry, Dementius. Maybe this time I'll be wrong again, or maybe I'll hit the nail on the head on who exactly it's gonna be. Hell, maybe I'll guess which boss we'll face correctly before Midnight's end. But without further delay, here are my 7 guesses as to who I think will be our final fight for Midnight. It wouldn't be right to not start this listing with the very villainous face of this saga. Xal'atath, Harbinger of the Void, has been the main villain throughout the entirety of the World Soul Saga, and her end goal has become much more clear as we begin our defense on Quel'thelas. Naifu, Beyblade, or Xal'atarsals, as many of the more enthusiastic fanboys have probably called her, I guess, had a much more prominent part to play in the events that spanned from Koresh, Azeroth, and beyond who knows where. Throughout the War Within, we saw her schemes to warp Illyria to the Void, gather an army worthy to her cause, and her slow burn to give the relic that Erotachron gave her, the Dark Heart, power to turn into a MacGuffin of nothing, apparently. Her end goals remained completely checkered, but we know she wants Azeroth's World Soul, either to consume it, become it, or something else. Her prize is Azeroth, and it's unclear how she's going to make that happen. It's possible she will make Azeroth turn dark, or get what she wants enough to make the Titans themselves leave their seat of power to fix whatever she might have broken. It could possibly be we may defeat her, or drop her out of her mortal-ish body somehow. Maybe imprison her in her own dagger again, or somebody else will. I've my doubts she will be gone in Midnight, especially as she's poised to make her gambit seen in Last Titan. An alliance leader here for a final villain list. Hi, I'm Chronos, and you probably would have guessed by now that my horde bias is showing. Which reminds me, Rexxar. There, I've met my Rexxar quota for the whole video. Now, where were we? Yeah, Turalyon. Turalyon was one of the first human paladins on Azeroth, a war veteran during the First and Second Wars against a far darker horde that we're used to today, and even spanned out from his own planet to take the fights to the Legion, becoming a high-ranking officer in the Army of the Light, and is currently the Regent Lord of Stormwind in Anduin's absence. For the most part, his antics have been for the good and safety of Azeroth, a good soldier who followed orders to the letter and followed them for the good of our world. His sheer dedication to the light has been a red flag though, especially in response to Illidan sending Xe'ra crashing down like a chandelier after being forced to fulfill a prophecy, much to Turalyon's dismay. Not saying I blame either parties there either, though I am biased to Illidan, of course. But something about the way Xe'ra had her, okay, she doesn't really have limbs or fingers, but the way that she had her influence over him always made me ponder how deep that really goes. After all, he's only alive and still active because he became Lightforge. You remove that and he'd be very dead right now. While I don't think Turalyon's turn to dark will be fully his own, I think it would be the light making its ploy to get control on Azeroth, to save it from darkness, it would try to pull it into the light by force. And Turalyon would be the one trying to make it so, either by his own volitions or by the lights. And yes, as a Horde fan, it would be quite nice for once there to be an Alliance leader gone rogue for us to take down. Or, I suppose, save. Totally down for either way, though. On the subject of light-addled humans and their leadership, let's talk about someone mysterious and just as dark and daring as Thoradin the Ninth. While we don't know the full history or personality of this leader and individual, his empire and pure devotion to the light above everything else makes Turalyon look like a lone light bulb in the lighting section at a Home Depot by comparison. His people, the Arathi, were sent by him to uncover and protect Beledar in preparation for the vision that he was shown, the visions of Renalash, the final battle between the light and the void. While the Emperor seems to be still in his homeland, I could definitely see him joining the conflict when things grow dire in the void's favor. And just like before with Turalyon, I think he will be yet another vessel for the light to use to try and take Azeroth from the void, and for itself instead. And unlike Turalyon, whom I do think would fight for control, I think Thoradin would do this without a doubt in his mind. I already think he's got hatred for both the Alliance and the Horde, or very little, and pause to war with them, and would gladly push to make Azeroth pure again. We've already been warned the homeland will likely not take a liking to us, and I assume that will be the same to an extreme amount against their emperor. Okay, this pick is kind of a wild card, so prepare yourself. Yrel, the current leader of the Draenei in the alternate Draenor we once traveled to, started as one of the many victims of the Iron Horde's tour of savagery across the land. She would then pick up a weapon and fight as a paladin, until eventually she would become a high exarch of her own people, stopping the Legion from taking her world alongside the commanders and peoples of Draenor alike. When we left the world of Draenor behind, the people there did not sit still either, as the orcs and Draenei would come to blows once more. Yrel took her people's dedication to light too far and spread it like wildfire all across Draenor in an unsettling and forceful manner. And sure, we saved the Mag'har from that timeline and had them join the Horde. We also seemingly sealed off that timeline from our own. But I have to wonder if it's truly removed from our timeline and truly dealt with. I believe if the Light wants to make a move, Yrel and her Lightbound army are but major components to the endgame if that holds true. We may have a chance to save Yrel from the Lights that might have bound her. Maybe. One of the biggest and most notable hosts and figures of the Light, the Light Mother, Xe'ra, is seemingly one of the most ancient leaders of her chandelier-like people, the Naaru. It was she who rallied Illyria and Turalyon, who turned Lothraxion, and helped create the Army of the Light, and rise to be the one of the most prominent cosmic forces during the Thousand-Year War. Xe'ra believed in a prophecy that Illidan was the key to the Legion's defeat as the child of light and shadow. Well, we all know how that went. Her prophecy was rejected by Illidan and was ultimately blown up and shattered into a million jagged pieces. But as with everything in Warcraft, the end is not always the end. A piece of her still remains aboard the Vindicar that could rise up and be the Army of the Light's beacon in the dark. And like most cosmic forces, I wouldn't be shocked if Xe'ra made a comeback, livid and vengeful after what happened with Illidan all those years ago. Or even a voided fashion, as that tends to happen when a Naru falls. And that piece from before just so happens to be sitting next to a piece of a voided Naru, Laura, as well. Alternatively, if Yrel is making a return, who's to say the alternate universes Xe'ra couldn't come with her? Although, I'll admit, I do prefer the main universe having beef with us. If the Void is throwing its very best down onto Azeroth to take it finally, I think the Light will be doing the same. Could lead her to try and take Azeroth and consume her in the Light. Or worse, the true child of Light and Shadow, Arathi, maybe. We could even see Xe'ra as a Xal'atath opposite, where she too possesses a mortal body, like a puppet, and makes her own moves. Time will certainly tell if Xe'ra makes a return, but she's one crystal chandelier that's looking to come crashing down again if she does. The very planet and world soul, Azeroth herself, corrupted. As we know, the World Soul Saga is all about Azeroth herself, the binding of her by the Titans, the constant cosmic forces warring over this very powerful planet and entity. It was teased when the World Soul Saga was announced that towards the end of Midnight, things will spiral wildly out of control, and yeah, it's gonna. Those events leading to the last major patch are going to have major implications, and after they go down, the Titans are about to come knocking on our door and see what has become of their grand project. And they won't be alone, either. So, what better way to make that story pop off than for Midnight to conclude with Xal'atath getting what she wants? She converts the planet to the Void, or she devours her soul. She switches places with her, something. And that forces us to make the decision to put down the world soul we've been striving to protect. In order to save the universe and worlds beyond, we put down Azeroth in whatever state she might be in. Though there's the possibility that we save her in the end, or maybe the Titans arrive just in time to revive her. Who's to say at this point, but I think it's completely possible we may be forced to fight Azeroth herself, either before she's completely turned, is turned, or something else altogether. And finally, a personal pick and a favorite of mine, one that I personally think is one of the best fits for this list. Though I'll admit, I don't know if I want to see her go just yet with how much I adore her. They can use Azshara for either Midnight or far after this World Soul Saga. Queen Azshara, former queen of the Highborn Elves and leader of the Naga, from the get-go, she was instrumental in starting a chain of events that would bring us to where we are now. From her involvement in starting the War of the Ancients, which welcomed the Legion in droves, sundering Kalimdor, and ultimately creating the Naga, she has done it all. Azshara is one of the last major legacy villains still kicking around, making all sorts of chaos and evil in the background. She initially was a servant of N'Zoth and tried to have him killed for her own freedom. Well, N'Zoth's dead, maybe. She now has full claim to whatever power she desires, be they void, light, or otherwise. And the champion's main goal is to rally the scattered elven tribes across Azeroth, to eventually defend the Sunwell from the devouring host, leading to a final clash between the light and the void. It would be very prudent for the Queen of the Naga herself to make a massive comeback here, and steal the show entirely from Xal'atath by making her own move for power, either as a friend or a foe. I have a hunch that she may be Xal'atath's enemy, though that doesn't mean they won't be allies at first. But with the way Azshara left last time, she didn't seem too keen on serving anyone ever again. Really, Xal'atath was probably the one who lied to her about the dagger's functions back in the day, when she was trying to stab N'Zoth, enough to make Xal'atath have problems of her own again. And yeah, I do love me some villain-on-villain conflicts, especially since I foresee Azshara not being the last one to have beef with Xal'atath. This could be where Azshara moves to take Azeroth for herself. I highly doubt she'd want Xal'atath to win and would make a bid at such powers for herself. And maybe in a last act of defiance, if she can't have Azeroth, then nobody can. And she moves to kill Azeroth so that none can have her. It's petty and it's totally something that she would do. It's a certain kind of poetic justice to have Azshara be the one to kill Azeroth, whether by accident or through her own will. I could see it after all Azeroth did to speak to her once before with her own voice. As a fish. No, wait, that was an Azoth, but still. Or was it Azoth? Who knows? Azshara is definitely a prime candidate to be an end boss for Midnight after all the things she's done to Azeroth and us. And the chances of her damaging or killing Azeroth, they're pretty high. But those are my thoughts as to who I think will be the final boss of Midnight. Who do you think it's gonna be? Do you think it's anyone on here that I've listed? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts above this. It'll be fun to see just how close I was or how far I was. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I've been Chronos, your lovely time demigod and host. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more videos like this one in the future. Be sure to join our Discord for more discussions with myself and the community, and a special thanks to the patrons and YouTube community members to help keep this channel alive and well. But until next time, my friends,